r/AskReddit. Disney theme park characters. Have there been situations where you had to break character? What was the reason? Consequences? Hey guys and gals. Giveaways will be coming soon, so stay notified by subscribing. Share your stories in the comment section. I would love to hear them. Now, on with the video. 10 plus years ago, my friend was a face character at Disneyland, and told me about her friend who was friends with Goofy, which is what you say to people when out of costume, to preserve the magic instead of outright saying you're the character. Allegedly, one day, Goofy's shift was over, and he was trying to walk to the back area to cool off, when a very angry mom started yelling at him because he ignored her son. In reality, he couldn't see them as he was turning to walk away. The lady then called him racist, and said that Goofy was ignoring them because they were black. Goofy turned around to greet the child and signed his autograph book, and then turned to the mom, and slipped up his sleeve to quickly point at his own black skin underneath before walking away. Edit. A few people commented that this isn't how the costume works, and that the sleeves aren't possible to pull up under the gloves. It could be a baloney story, but this is just what I heard from my friend who worked at Disney, alongside a bunch of our other classmates from our performing arts school. Next. Goofy making someone else feel goofy, and rightfully so. I couldn't even get the zombies at Halloween Horror Nights to break character. Asked one where the restroom was and he flung his arms in the proper direction and grunted. Pretty hilarious. A few years ago at Halloween Horror Nights I had a brief chat with a chainsaw wielding maniac. He screamed. I screamed. I asked if he was having fun and he said hell yeah, I love scaring people, and off he went. They don't break character. If a nuke fell on Disney, they'd be ushering you into the bomb shelters as Aladdin or whatever. Big blast. Nerve gas. Show your fast puss. I was at Disneyland a couple weeks ago and saw Darth Vader not cutting down younglings. It was just unprofessional as all hell. The effort they put into it just isn't the same anymore. I wasn't a character but was a cast member. I was walking from backstage into the park. If you've seen the transitions, they are S-shaped to keep people from peeking in. I was pushing a dolly hand cart. The ones we used had two long supports sticking out from the end. As I was going though, Winnie the Pooh was walking in from the other side. I hit him her square in the leg with it. Hearing Winnie the Pooh say fuck was a pretty damn funny. Did they at least say it in the Pooh voice? My cousin used to do this when I was a kid. We'd always go try to find her on days we knew she was working. She mostly played Pooh Bear. She would never say out loud hi Nougatut, but she would get very animated and jump around to give us hugs. Occasionally she'd still say things like I have a rumbly in my tummy. I thought I was the coolest kid cause I knew Pooh Bear. You were correct about that. I've seen articles that face characters can leave at any time if harassment is bad, using in-character excuses. Costume characters always have an attendant with them to control unruly guests. As long as your harassment is in character, like locking them up in a tower or kissing them while they sleep, there is nothing they can do. Not a character, but my family went to Disney World a few times when I was a kid. My dad was abusive, physically and verbally. We eventually left him when I was 12. He was awful on vacations for just being miserable in general. It was Valentine's Day and my mom, dad, older sister and I were at one of the parks. I don't remember which. All of the characters had big red hearts on a string around their necks. My sister was at oldest 8 and I would have been 6. We had just gotten ice cream and my sister and I were excitedly looking around for our favorite characters. My sister just saw Eeyore, her all-time favorite character, so she turned around and my dad, not paying attention, ran right into my sister holding her ice cream cone and got it on his shirt. He hauls off and smacks her in the side of the face, knocking off her glasses and making her drop her ice cream cone. She starts crying as my mom starts giving him shit while he defended his actions, saying she should have watched where she was going. The next thing we know is my sister is being hugged by Eeyore. It shocked her out of crying and she was suddenly so incredibly happy because Eeyore just kept hugging her while my mom started taking pictures. Eeyore stopped hugging my sister only to point to his paper heart, then again to her. Then he hugged her again. There is a picture somewhere in my mom's basement of my sister and I standing with Eeyore. My sister beaming but clearly looking like she had been crying. I still think about that Eeyore to this day and wondered what they were thinking. It was the early 90s when people were largely still expected to mind their business when it came to such things. And reading these other comments makes me realize he may not have been able to do anything else anyway. But I appreciate his gesture nonetheless. Thanks Eeyore. Post blow up edit. If you are currently crying in the club, I apologize. Some days it be like that. No, I'm not going to post the picture. Aside from it meaning I have to dig through literal thousands of pictured from my mom's film camera days that are in a town I no longer live in. This story is not about me. It's about my sister when she was a child, and while this is a heartwarming story to some, it's a bit of a tainted memory for us. So it wouldn't be appropriate. Plus I just really don't want a shrug emoji. We are absolutely in a better place. My dad lives several hours away with his wife and we see him perhaps twice a year. My sister has made some semblance of peace with him, but I keep my distance because I have not and don't feel the need to at this point in my life. As funny as having Eeyore lay my dad the fuck out would have been, their actual reaction was much more in character and made my sister much happier than the alternative would have. Plus, on a sucker note, it most likely would have just made my dad more mad at my sister later. You the real MVP Eeyore. Thank you for all the awards. All I ask is to pay it forward, if you ever have the chance. Be Eeyore. This should be a standalone post. I feel for you guys. I wasn't a character but worked closely with them. As a photographer, Disney performers are trained to never break character for whatever reason. They have ways of signaling their character attendant that they are in distress, and it's generally up to the character attendant to avoid any weird or uncomfortable situations. As far as weird situations, they do get people that stalk them in the park. Like some people get in those lines multiple times to get a photo with a specific performer. The weird side of Disney fanatics are something else. Yeah, I heard of one performer who had to get a restraining order after one of her fans got a full back tattoo of her. The tattoo was not of her in character. I have a close friend who was Woody for a while at Disneyland. He said that one time the float caught on fire during a show and they had to play it off completely in character. They danced around it and had to quickly get it backstage to deal with the problem. He said they played it off well enough that no one seemed to notice there wasn't any panic. He said he had never seen an instance of anyone breaking character because everyone was very well trained and there's always at least 6 or so cameras that can see you at all times. I also one time offered an unopened water bottle to an employee when it was near 100 degrees and he said if anyone at Disney saw that, he would be fired. They can't take anything from guests. He also mentioned the cameras constantly watching both crew and patrons. Edit. I texted my friend to confirm and he has given me another story to share. One time an acrobat fell off a float, face planted into the ground and knocked herself out. They had to surround her in a circle and dance in sync as they dragged her body away. They played it off well and apparently no one noticed. If I recall correctly, all the cast members, costumed or not, get pretty frequent breaks. And after having been to World recently, I noticed there's a lot of places for them to cool off if need be. I watched Jack Sparrow talking to a kid when the kid started puking everywhere. He said too much of the ol' apple juice, been there myself, even ran out once. All the while, the kid is just projectile vomiting everywhere. Jack Sparrow has to be one of the most fun to play. You get to act drunk all day. The type of people that play characters are very into it. If something comes up that needs to be addressed, they will handle it in character. You've probably heard stories about characters helping kids find their parents. These days characters always have handlers nearby that have walkie-talkies. I'm reminded of Gaston and the Pushers. Dude was on point with that character. I was at Disneyland once and the sheriff of Nottingham was fake menacing a child. He reached out to touch the kid's balloon and for some reason it popped. The character actor was clearly stunned. A new balloon appeared less than 30 seconds later. The logistics at Disneyland sound downright impressive. Awesome question. I don't work at a park, but I took some time to look through some older threads for some relevant responses to get the discussion going. Youthiblik GD said here, at the mouse we had a kid who had a checklist shirt on. On it said Darth Maul. tick. Darth Vader, tick. Then the last one beat cancer, tick. The kid was 6 years old. Then I'm told backstage that the parents wanted to do something special for him in the show, but my director couldn't find a spot in the show where this special moment would work. So we finished the show, Jedi Training Academy, and set up a meet and greet with the kid. I get out there and this kid's whole family is at the greeting area. I mean everyone. So I hear, "Okay champ, you ready?" Kid replies, "Yup." He pulls out this pill, swallows it, and the family breaks down crying. The kid yells, "I'm a real Jedi." Come to find out, the kid took his last chemo pill that eradicated his cancer in front of us. He waited all morning to show us that he was brave and a true Jedi. We were all holding back tears. You in the vortex said here. I worked at Club Disney for the brief time it was open. We had codes we used on the radio headsets that were coordinated with character names. For instance, code blue meant there was blood that needed to be cleaned up immediately. One day, I'm taking a stroll around the club to check on things when I spot a small boy about 2 years old taking a massive dump right in the middle of the play area. He sees me, starts to cry, and runs away with no clothing on the lower half of his body. I get on the radio and can't think of what to say, as we hadn't discussed a code for human fesses in the play area and naked kid running around. So I just called. "I have a code poo situation in the play area and piglets on the loose." Double quote. "You." Deleted. Said here. I was sitting with a group of guys by where Mickey and Minnie get dressed. When they came out, the guys started catcalling Minnie. The guy that was Mickey said, in a perfect Mickey voice, "If you look at my girlfriend again, I'm gonna pop ya." Man, you. Deleted. Is all over the place. A few days ago, me, my sister and her friend went to the new Galaxy's Edge area. My sister's friend was around 6 feet 1 inches and had never seen Star Wars. We were walking around and Chewbacca ran up to her. He was around her height, and hugged her. He put his hand above his head, showing they were both tall. She was super embarrassed, and while we were walking away, he did that fist pump thing. Since then we refer to her as Chewbacca's girlfriend. Seriously, the cutest thing ever. What if Chewbacca was played by a female and was super excited to see a fellow talk female? I went once and a man was harassing Cinderella, so she excused herself to the bathroom and ran to a security guard. Don't all characters have a buddy? Or is that only true for costumed characters? I seem to recall at least one other cast member there to direct folks to the end of the line. Worked at the Disney store in late 87 and 88 in Orange County, CA, I think. At the time, it was like one of only a handful of stores open. The back of the store had a big screen, where we constantly played some Disney video. Every once in a while, the biggest, muscular, blackest, gayest dude would come in and kindly request we play anything poo related. He'd then proceed to prance around the store. He came in the evenings, towards closing, and sing the Tigger parts of either dialogue or any song. Turns out he was one of the Tiggers at Disneyland. Dude just loved being Tigger. I wish I loved something as much as that guy loves Tigger. Wow, they don't mess around with their silence, Valha. You gotta understand, this is a highly coveted job. This is rollerplay in its highest form. It's truly a job of passion, and nobody can dispute that. You aren't going to find people who have this job who aren't absolutely 100% into rollerplay to the fullest. So it shouldn't be a surprise that it's really easy for them to always stay in character no matter the situation. There are a lot of people who pick up their entire lives, transplant to LA, Florida to work at Disney just to have the chance to be a Disney character. It's really like that. The only way I could ever see an in-character person breaking character was if it was upsetting the child some reason and they wanted to, discreetly, I'm sure, remind the kid that it's just a costume. It's really unlikely that you'll get any current cast members to answer. Also, there's no need for them to break character since they have handlers or security nearby if there is a safety concern or emergency. They also have tons of places to get out of sight to have a private moment. What if they got injured? A bit late to the thread. Wife doesn't have a Reddit, but she's a Disney princess. She has a lot of passion for her job and has never broken character. It's a fireable offense. The girls know that their job is coveted, so they are on their best behavior. If they break character in a bad way, Disney will quickly replace them with another girl going to the monthly auditions. She loves a good dad joke, so one guest made a real clever one while she was meeting his kid, and instead of her in character princess laugh, she genuinely laughed. The stories she tells me are insane, hysterical, sad, and heartwarming. If anyone wants to hear more, She's more than happy to share, omitting any details that'll jeopardize her job. Edit for grammar. I'd love to hear more stories if she's willing to share. I wouldn't say break, but I was a lifeguard and I had to ban this kid from going down the water slide. Every single time I told him he had to be feet first, and every time he said okay. But he kept going head first, and it got to the point where the other kids saw him and were copying him. He left and cried to mom and dad, and I explained to mom and dad why. They left and cried to my coordinator, and my cord came back saying that wasn't very magical. I explained after several times of this kid not listening. Other kids were copying him. In any case, I got a stern talk to about being the nice lifeguard who explains why versus the mean lifeguard who just yells orders. Right, double quotation mark. Later that day, that kid was running across the deck, despite several requests not to. Tripped and ate concrete. Man shrugging. Don't hate me because I don't feel bad. I'm a lifeguard as well, and if someone told me that, I would ask why I'm even there if they don't want me to remove safety issues. Literally 90% of the job is telling little kids not to do shit that could hurt them. This reminds me of that story about the little girl and boy whose parents died that got VIP treatment for a day by a Disney park character. One of the most touching stories I've ever read. Stuck with me. Link. Haha, so fun story. I have 3 cousins who have been Disney princesses, 2 of which are still at it. About a year ago, my grandparents decided to go visit one of my cousins out at Disneyland Tokyo. My grandpa has relatively advanced Alzheimer's, but he is generally easy to handle. Anyway, somehow he got separated from my grandma and started to panic a little, looking for anyone he knew. Turns out the first person he found that he recognized was my cousin in full Cinderella character. They allow the characters to come out and walk around the park in Tokyo because the Japanese are super respectful. He started to talk to my cousin, calling her by her real name and quite directly asking her where his wife, her parents were. He started to get pretty angry and frustrated when she wouldn't give him a straight answer. She kept character as best she could, but her handlers whisked her away pretty rapidly. He was reunited with the rest of the group soon after, but it was quite the scene. Additional note, edit. Yes, it was tragic. Disney should show a little more leniency. It is truly a crazy world. The world of the mouse. My extended family just tries to remember it as a ridiculous chain of events and not as a traumatic one. It ended up being relatively okay in the end. Alzheimer's is a shitty disease, and I guess we think that it's still better to include my grandpa in family events and risk these kinds of happenings than to lock him up in some room somewhere where he would be completely safe. That's gotta be awful to have to keep in character for that. Visitant from last year here. On the Halloween night, I've seen 2 female employees working on the store. Not characters though. Clearly upset by some kind of superior order. The exact dialogue was, "Yeah, sometimes it gets hard. I know it does. But that attitude was unacceptable." I didn't resist, and I said, "I guess even in Disney working sometimes sucks." The first girl immediately stood up and smiled as bright as she could. "What do you mean? Working here is awesome every time." I couldn't help but feel that she was agreeing with me, but never breaking the Happy Land face. Awesome place. Blink if Mickey is behind you with a gun. A face performer broke character for my husband and I. I won't say which park, but we took a trip to Disney about 2 months after our infant son died. He was our first. Our entire nursery was Neverland Peter Pan theme. We always wanted to take him to Disney, have him meet Peter. Well, he couldn't. I got a memorial tattoo, an exact replica of my son's hospital ink handprint, and we got a picture of Peter Pan with the tattoo. We were alone with him and his handler. I tearfully explained the situation before asking him to pose with my arm. He took lots of photos with my tattoo and us, and afterward he hugged me tight, told me he was proud of me, and God bless us, and he was so sorry for our loss. It was amazing, emotional, and I'll never forget that Peter Pan was proud of me for finding the strength to keep on living. It honestly meant the world. I'm so glad he broke character. I'll always treasure those photos and that memory. Well, I'm glad Peter did break character then. Can you imagine how insensitive the actual Peter would probably be about this? Thanks for watching, boys and girls. Tell me your story in the comments. Make sure to subscribe for future giveaways.